And we're going to move into our first set of speakers. Norm Allard is the community planner for the Yaqan or Lower Kootenay Band. He is currently managing a large-scale wetland restoration project on bandland in the Creston Valley, an ecological revitalization of the area that he considers directly linked to cultural revitalization. So thank you so much for being here, Norm, and welcome.
Thanks for coming, everyone. Thanks for having me. Currently managing the large-scale wetland restoration project. It covers a number of different areas, approximately 517 hectares in total. And yeah, I'll go into the project. These are a couple of historical images and a current image right before the project that we'll get over to in a few slides here. As I was saying, these are a couple images from the project. Back in the late 60s, LKB partnered with Ducks Unlimited Canada to come in and create a number of compounds for duck nesting habitat. And in these areas, they basically tried to turn all of these into nesting habitat, which was natural floodplain type areas. They came in and built these impoundments with a number of dikes and berms. So this is our southern site. It's 3 different impoundments. And these areas were basically made to connect all of the historical wetlands within the area were connected with ditching, and they put in these dikes and dams and put in a pump and a culvert with a valve so that they could all be drained, but they can also be filled in reverse. So this is another area compound that was created. These berms and dikes can be up to 2 meters high by 6 meters. And this is an example of some of the ditching that they had done in order to connect these wetlands so that they can be filled and drained basically at will. So with the hunting grounds here, what happened was a number of different things historically in the area where the Goat River used to actually do a 90-degree at this point, and this is where the Goat meets the Kootenay River. But back in the early 1900s, Bailey Groman actually came in and cut a channel from the Goat and connected it to the Kootenay here. So that cut 15 kilometers of meandering from the Goat off and actually shortened the stream, which sped it up. And the Libby dams as well control the water flow. So that those were 2 big impacts on how this floodplain functions. And then like in the late 60s, that started putting these compounds, this long yellow line here, and the ones over here are dams which created a central compound, and the pump was put on the other side of the stream and the drain was over here. So they actually also cut off a 1.2 kilometer loop in this area of old stream, and they dug a ditch from the loop to one loop to the other in order to save a bit of time instead of damming this whole section here. This is that channel that we're looking at. When you dig a channel, you can drain groundwater up to about 2 kilometers away, depending on how deep it is. And this is a fairly deep one. As you can see, this is ground level, and then matching level on the other side is about here. And then about another meter high on the other side is where the dam used to exist. And because the streams were shortened and all of these areas were, like these streams had soft bottoms and clay and sand and stuff, they formed head cuts that went up the actual Goat River and the South Channel, which also tend to deepen a stream and then widen it. So that actually led to a lot of the difference between historically, this is what it used to look like. This is the old South Channel where it connects, and this is the Goat River. And right here is where I was saying it east to 90° and parallel the Kootenay all the way up to Duck Lake. And this is the Kootenay River, and this is where they dug through and connected it. So in 2018, we began restoration of these areas. This is inside of the first compound we began. We dug 4.5 hectares of wetland, and we, by plugging off some of the ditching that they used to connect them, you can see some of it here. We actually created another 7.7 hectares just by disabling some of this ditching. Then 2019, this is the middle compound. We created 6.1 hectares of historical wetland. These are all, we use historical photos. The oldest one we found was from Mark Andre. He sent us a place we could get them from, and he's actually provided some. They're photos from 1929. And all of these old little wetlands exist. They're actually the ones that last throughout the year, and then these larger areas that you're seeing that I'm calling historically restored wetlands are large ephemeral wetlands that appear just after freshet. So with these areas cut off from the rivers and stream systems, these larger historical wetlands no longer exist. They're just small. All of these historical ones are the recreated ones. They're there, but they end up being ephemeral in the beginning of the year unless we continually pump water in, which is a huge expense, and maintain a lot of the ditching in order to keep these areas connected. And this is the hunting grounds after 3 years of work. There's 2019, we dug 6.1 hectares of wetlands, and we took out that dam, which is 2.2, just over 2 kilometers, and we restored it to natural levee and put in inlets and outlets for these areas. And these are some of the, as you see, over the years, we did about the same amount of work in there. We phase these projects out, and we continually return back so that we can keep an eye on previous year's work to see what's functioning properly. And if there's any problems with some of the work we've done, we can adjust it for the future phases instead of going into one area completely restoring it and then coming back to see, large portions of it need adjustment. So this is when we're removing the dam. We average about 3 to 5 pieces of heavy machinery out there. We use nowadays we use excavators to dig the wetlands, and then we have dozers that will spread the dirt and recreate some of the area. As you can see, where we left part of the dams in place in order to maintain certain water levels, and we're about halfway down. And you can see it's just over a meter. This is just some of the more of the removed dam. I'm kind of skipping through this so I can touch on a bunch of different points, but there's so much going on with this project. It's something that, we hope to have tours and have people come back in and see on the ground, and then you actually get a full experience from it. I need at least an hour-long presentation to fully encompass everything that we're doing out there. But this is one of the natural features that was still out there. This is an old oxbow channel that they utilized for part of the drainage system, and in it you could see they put a huge nesting island, and these islands are remnants of all of the ditching that they put in place in order to connect these areas, which turn these all the wetlands there. If you think of tide pools, they all hold water when the tide goes out. But if you connect all of them together with ditching, then the water will drain out as the water goes down. But the way that these function, they put up a dam as the water's down, and they can fill it up and drain it at will. But if you just come into these areas and breach the outer dams and riprap them, it'll still function, but the water will flow in and flow out. So we basically take these areas and restore all of those natural historical rims to these massive wetlands so that they do hold water after freshet goes away. And this is about a year after in some of the areas we worked on. We have no problems with the basins of these wetlands revegetating. They grow back. We often leave huge swaths of the historical area or portions of it if there are any there in order to help reseed. There's also seed banks within the soil that help contribute to that. It's just the upland area that we have planting plans for, and we continually reseed and have to manage for invasive weeds on. And as you can see right here, this is the massive difference between on the left where there's aquatic plants and where we created wetlands, and on the right where a lot of reed canary that's pretty invasive and prevalent in the whole valley, the Creston Valley here exists. And you know, everything utilizes all of these areas, and that's the main function behind trying to restore these areas, is to put it back to as naturally functioning as possible so then it can benefit everything that exists out there. You know, we get funding and we do the work for all of the listed species and the rare plants and everything else, but if all of those life cycles depended on, you know, each other. So if we restore it for everything, then that starts to build up that interdependency, and you get a stronger functioning restoration out of the whole project. This is another wetland that we dug a year later. You know, they tend to fill and hold water, and yeah, this is just some more example of a larger ephemeral wetland that we've done, and how that vegetation just springs back up and creates, you know, a massive amount of diversity in plants. We vary the bottoms of these so that we don't have, all you need is like the same elevation across the board for one plant to dominate. So in varying the bottom, we add that diversity back. And we do different types of wetlands, different sizes, different depths, just so that we do have that variation. So just a few pictures of things. Some more things nibbling on stuff up there. And 1 second. So I will exit that. And I'll just bring a couple more things over here. Just to show you the differences. This is everyone can see this, it's Google Earth. You can play with the time slider here as well. This is a photo from 2012 of the area. But if you bring it to the present date, it actually updated this August. And this is in the middle of a flood. A drought. We had 80% snowpack this year, and we only had 9 days connection with the streams in order to fill this area, and it flooded everything out there. And throughout the whole year, even now, with the massive droughts and the low snowpack and water levels, we still have over approximately ½ a meter of water in a lot of these wetlands that are ephemeral. And just to give you a bit of a show, this is a video during freshet. This is one of the major inlets we opened up, and this is the only one we need now. We had a number of them there, but like I said, with 9 days connection over 2 weeks, we managed to flood the whole entire area of the hunting grounds. And this is what we're basing the other areas on for the restoration work that we have planned. We're planning on opening up another 15 acres of wetlands, recreate them, and another 157 hectares of floodplain reconnection. So this is from the west side, and we're flying east, and just on the left here is the Creston Valley. So like I said, with that low snowpack, we were able to basically turn this whole area into one massive wetland again. And we've had a huge number of animals and plants and vertebrates turtles, frogs come back. Unfortunately, no leopard frogs yet because there's no connection between here and north where the Creston Valley Wildlife Management Area has them, but we're hoping to get something like that back in these areas, and we're constructing a lot of them for the return of listed species like that. And flying over one of these wetlands this year, just in one small pond like this, flying over that is, we counted about 113 Western painted turtles alone just floating around. So yeah, and that's basically it in a nutshell.
Thank you, Norm. We had a comment come through. That was incredible footage, and what an amazing project.